Welcome to the science class, Arnav.
I'm glad to be here, sir.
Okay, so now we'll be talking about different states of matter. As we said, matter is made up of molecules, and these molecules are always in a state of motion. वो एक टिक के नहीं बैठ सकते, वो molecules हमेशा move करते रहते हैं. Although we cannot see anything moving in these, लेकिन those molecules, they are bound to each other by a force of attraction. There is a force of attraction which is binding them. There is no glue, there is no lock, there is a force of attraction which binds them. And depending on that strength of force of attraction, they are in different states of matter. In solids, that force of attraction is very high. In liquids, that force of attraction is less. And in gases, that force of attraction is least. तो solids hard होते हैं क्योंकि वो molecules एक दूसरे से tightly bound होते हैं.
Is it like magnets?
Yes, a strong magnet that will bind the other things in a stronger way. In liquids, because the force of attraction is less, they are loosely packed. आप इसको हिलाते हैं तो the liquid moves, but the structure of glass it stays same. So the solids are rigid; they do not change shape. But if we apply pressure on that, we may be able to change shape. Or a common eraser when you use, you may be able to bend it a little.
But it comes back to its original shape.
Right. So when it is lying undisturbed, it will not change its shape. So solids, let's take up the properties separately. In solids, the force of attraction is strongest. The molecules, they are tightly bound. Solids are hard, solids are rigid. So their shape and volume, that remains the same. And unless it's a rubber, the solids are not compressible.
Can we call a human body as solids?
So human body, if lying untouched, it will not change its shape. So the human body is made up of solids as well as there are liquids inside. So it's a mixture of both. So we'll be taking the pure matters at the moment. Then, other than solid, what form of matter do you know of?
Liquid.
Right. So next we'll talk about liquids. The force of attraction between the molecules is less strong in liquids. So the molecules are less closely packed. That is why the liquids can flow comfortably, they can flow easily. So although the volume of liquids it remains the same. अब इतना पानी है ग्लास में तो the volume will remain the same. I'll not be able to compress it, but if I pour it into another container, the shape will change.
So what is volume?
Volume is the amount of space occupied by this liquid or any solid.
That was matter.
So matter is anything which occupies space.
And volume is also what occupies space?
How much space is being occupied, that is volume. Okay? So in solids we said they are rigid, their shape and volume is constant. But in liquids, their volume is constant but they can change their shape.
Sir, does that mean that the molecules in liquids are less than in solids?
No, the molecules are not less. The molecules are less tightly bound.
Okay, so that means they attract less than solids.
The force of attraction between the molecules in liquids is less than that of solid. And if it is further reduced, then we have, what is the third state of matter we have?
Air.
Air or gases. In gases, the molecules are loosely bound to each other or loosely attracted to each other. That is why you would have seen, अगर आप मंदिर में अगरबत्ती जलाते हैं तो उसका जो स्मोक है वो थोड़ी देर में ही सारे रूम में it spreads over there. Alright? So when we have an incense stick or when we have a smoke anywhere, we can see if we burn it. Sorry. So if we let's leave it. We'll leave it. So when we burn an incense stick, the smoke it spreads throughout the room. अगर perfume आप लगाते हैं, so even if it's on the one end, in the one end of the room, you can have the fragrance, or you can feel the fragrance, or you can smell the fragrance in the other end of the room also. Now, when we talk of properties of gases, the molecules, the force of attraction is least. They can move freely in the space which is available. They do not have any fixed shape. They do not have any fixed volume. This is very important. Liquids, we said, and solids, that they have fixed volume. But gases, they do not have fixed volume.
Sir, can I come back in the class because the student is not being very active?
No, his role will come. He has to help me in the experiments. So I do not require his activity or his active intervention right now. So just wait for it. Now, after this, we'll be talking about how we can mix different states of matter.
Sir, first I want to know how can we feel air? How can we see it exists? I'm not able to see air
Sir,
around me.
and is smoke and the normal air around us different? How
Yes.
can we see a difference between them?
The air is mixture of gases. There are different gases which constitute air. So
And smoke has some dust particles, if I'm not wrong.
smoke has more of carbon particles. Like now here we can see. Can you see a white smoke coming out or emanating out of this incense stick?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is smoke.
This is smoke. Since it is burning properly, it is getting adequate amount of oxygen. It is white in color. But initially, जब आप इसको जलाते हैं, you must have noticed at that time the color of smoke is black, because that is containing more of carbon particles. So the color of smoke is black to
Okay, so the
start with.
more the particles are, the darker the color of the
That's
air
right.
is.
So more the particulate matter, the more the darker will be the color of the smoke. If it is burning well, if it has been filtered, you must have noticed in some of the chimneys, the color of smoke is absolutely black. That is very dangerous for all of us. But if those particulate matters, they are removed from that smoke, only the gases are released, then the color of smoke is usually white, and it is less harmful for the human beings and for our lungs. So now we'll talk about mixing different kinds of matters. So let's first talk about solids in water. A solid substance, can it be mixed in water? किसी भी चीज को अंदर हम ये कहते हैं कि हमने शुगर को वाटर में मिक्स करना है. So sugar will be called as solute, okay? And जिस liquid में हम उसको mix कर रहे हैं, that will be called as solvent. So what is the substance which we are mixing called as?
Solute.
Solute. And what is the substance? What is the liquid in which it is being mixed called as?
Solvent.
Solvent.
Sir, can you please repeat it again?
Yes. Solute is the solid.
What is sugar?
Sugar is a solute.
Solute.
Yes.
And what is water?
Water is a solvent.
Solvent.
So the liquid in which we are mixing the solid, the liquid is called as solvent, and the solid substance which is being mixed, it is called as solute. Okay? If a substance is able to dissolve in liquid, that is, the molecules of that solid substance are able to separate and find a space in between the molecules of water or in between the molecules of a solvent.
Oh, sir, I know that. Those are called soluble.
Yes, those are called soluble, and if a solid does not dissolve in water or any other liquid, that is called as
Insoluble.
So let's take up some examples of solid mixing into water. Arnav, can you put some pepper into this glass of water?
Yes.
Okay, and can you put some sugar? Let me have this. Can you put some sugar into the second glass? Put a little more. And let me have some salt in the third one. You can use the same one. Okay, let's give it some time. Okay, after that we'll see the effect. Can you stir it?
Yes, sir.
Good. And using this, can you stir? Using this, can you stir that one?
Yes, sir.
Good. Let me have that back. Now we'll take another substance which I have kept separately. This is potassium permanganate. You can see there are small crystals in it. It comes into a small packet like this. And now Arnav, can you put this in the fourth glass? This one. Just dip it inside once. Good. Leave it.
The color is changing. Different
Wow.
color. What is this, sir?
This is potassium permanganate.
Potassium permanganate.
Yes. So we used 4 different substances, all of them solid. लेकिन उनकी tendency to dissolve in water is different. Can you see the pepper? It's inside.
It is settled down.
It is settled down. It is not mixing in it. It is not dissolving.
Sir, can you please pick up the glass and show it to me?
Here, have a look. All of it is at the bottom of it. So
Right.
sand, chalk powder, pepper, they'll not dissolve in water. They are insoluble in water. Like this eraser, this is solid. Let's leave it in water. It will not dissolve. So these are insoluble. Now coming to sugar. Leave it for some more time. आप पानी में मिल्क में शुगर डालते हैं तो वो डिसॉल्व हो जाती है ना.
So tell me one more thing. If the sugar dissolves in the water, it is soluble, right? So
That's
will
right.
it be changing its volume? Water?
No, it will find a space. In the definition I said, the solute finds a space in between the molecules of a solvent. The molecules of sugar, it will find space in between the molecules of water. So it will not increase the volume. It will dissolve and it will find a space within the space of the liquid or the solvent.
So this is very important for all of us to understand. The water
Water which is a
whatever
solvent.
whatever gets dissolved in water or some liquid, it does not change its volume. It remains the same.
The substance finds the space between the molecules of the solvent.
Yes.
Am I right, sir?
That is right. And now we look at salt. Salt is easier to dissolve. शुगर के क्रिस्टल्स अभी भी हमें नीचे दिख रहे हैं, बट सॉल्ट के काफी हद तक उसमें डिसॉल्व हो गए. सो द सॉल्ट इज मोर मिसिबल और मोर सॉल्युबल इन वाटर. एंड वी टॉक्ड अबाउट पोटेशियम परमैंगनेट. उसको तो हमें टच करने की जरूरत थी. एंड यू कैन सी it's dissolved in whole of it.
It is very beautiful. It is
Yes.
just like pomegranate.
So the color.
Same color. That
Yes.
is why we call it potassium permanganate.
No, potassium permanganate is the technical term. It is not related to pomegranate.
But we can remember it like that.
Yes, you can remember it. So this was an example how different solids, they can be soluble or insoluble in water, and their tendency to be soluble is also different from one thing to other. Okay, now let's talk about liquids in water. When we say a liquid will mix in water, we call it that they are miscible. When two liquids, they can mix with each other to form a homogeneous solution, that is called as a miscible, or those liquids are called as
Miscible.
MISCIBLE. So the biggest or the commonest example which we see of miscible liquids are milk and water. In a glass of milk, you may add few drops of water, or you may add a little water in whole of the glass of milk. So आप उनको कितनी भी रेशियो के अंदर आपस में मिक्स कर सकते हैं, and you will not be able to tell how much is the water and how much was the milk. Okay, for example, we'll put a little of it. Okay, so now we can see it dissolves into it.
Wow.
The color changes and the water and milk, they have mixed into each other to form another solution जिसका कलर पूरे में यूनिफॉर्म है, कहीं पे डार्क नहीं, कहीं पे लाइट नहीं. इट फॉर्म्स अ होमोजीनस सॉल्यूशन, राइट. सो कौन कौन सी चीजें मिक्स हो सकती हैं? ये हमारे पास इंक है. ट्राई टू पुट इट इनटू इट, स्मॉल अमाउंट ओनली, बी केयरफुल, जस्ट पुट इनटू इट. यस, so you can see when we put any ink, betadine or any water soluble liquid, you stir it a little और वो उसके अंदर मिक्स हो जाएगी. You will not be able to separate it. So water, milk, alcohol, inks, vinegar, honey, ये सब चीजें वाटर में डिसॉल्व हो सकती हैं.
Sir, but why are we not able to see it?
No, we are able to see it, but it's a different color. The milk was more white, but when water mixed into it, उसका color light हो गया, because the quantity of water was more and that of milk was less.
Okay, now I understand. That means liquids are much easy to be dissolved in water or in other liquids than solids.
But it depends on which liquid are you taking. Like if we take, this is a liquid paraffin. Can you put few drops into this glass? Put a little more, put a little more. Okay. So
why is it floating?
yes, can you
It
see?
is floating.
It's
Wow.
floating on the top of it. Have a closer look at that. And can you see the droplets?
Oh yes,
They are
I
floating
can.
on the top. And let me try to mix it also. I have stirred it. Let's wait for 2 minutes and then see if it mixes into it or not.
My mama applies this on my lips in winters.
Yes. So liquid paraffin, or if we take oil, even oil that will not be miscible, it will also float on the top of water. So you see, initially when we stirred it, it looked like कि वो उसमें dissolve हो गया. But even now, can you see it again?
It has again come up.
Yes, it has again come up because its density is less than that of water. So it is floating on the top of water. It will not dissolve into it. इसी तरह से अगर आप पेंट्स लेते हो, आप पेंट की कोई ड्रॉप डालते हो वाटर में, it will settle at the bottom. That is why.
Sir, can you give us some homework to do at home? Because we are not lucky like Arnav, and we also want to do it. Which should we, like, what should we do for the homework?
Okay, for the homework, you can try to, one, we'll be talking about different states of water. So you should see how can you form the 3 states of water, which will be solid in form of ice, liquid in form of water, and it will be gaseous or it will be in form of gas like a steam. So your mama can show you all the 3 forms of water. Then you can try to dissolve these. Okay, take sugar and mix it into water.
So
and we
we'll
will
cook.
write also. We will write in the notebook and we will ask you, and that when we I forgot
Do we have
what I
to
wanted
observe
to say.
it? We have to observe it and we have to write an observation in the notebook.
Yes, that's what I wanted to say.
So you can take 5 different things, which will be sugar, salt, chalk powder, sand and ink, and try to mix or take 5 separate glasses like we have taken here and mix them into this.
Sure, we will do it.
Okay, so we have already talked about solids in water, liquids in water, and now let's talk about gases in water. Arnav, can you hand this over to me please? Thank you. The commonest example of gases in water, which all of you know, is the aerated drinks. आपको सबको पता होगा, इसको अगर हम शेक करते हैं और बॉटल खोलते हैं तो suddenly lots of foam and bubbles they come out.
Like champagne.
Yes, like champagne, or in these, like in the cold drink bottle the carbon dioxide that is pressed into it. इसको अगर आप हिला के और इसको ओपन करेंगे, lots of bubbles come up. लेकिन आप अगर मिनरल वाटर की बॉटल को कितना भी हिलाएंगे तो उससे बाहर नहीं आते हैं. Okay? So do you know the difference? Because this contains gases in a compressed form, and the gas used for this is carbon dioxide. So most of the bottling plants where the cold drinks they are bottled, उनके अंदर carbon dioxide is used, and that is put inside the liquid in these cold drinks. So they become aerated cold drinks. Normally also we have oxygen, nitrogen and ammonia that dissolves in water. You must have heard or you must have read it in your science chapters that fishes or the aquatic animals, they breathe the oxygen which is dissolved in water. उनका जो breathing mechanism होता है that uses the oxygen which is dissolved in water. So we have talked about all these three things: solids in water, liquids in water and gases in water. When we start boiling water, on the sides of container or top पे जो bubbles आ रहे होते हैं, those are the gases which are being released from the water. Now, when we have talked about boiling, let's talk about the last point or the last topic of this chapter, which is effect of heating and cooling. As I mentioned earlier also, the water can be in all the three forms depending on the temperature. अगर freezer में है, if it's cold, it is in form of ice which is solid. If it's on the room temperature, it comes into a liquid form which is water, as we see it in the glass over here. And when we are boiling it, it becomes in form of steam which is in form of gas. And this mechanism is also what causes snowfall and what causes rains, because the water evaporates from the seas and river, it goes from the clouds, comes down as rain, and on the higher altitude or on the hilltops, it comes down as a snow. So when we talk about the physical change in a state of matter, this is the example of a physical change in a state of matter. Then there is a change which is called as a chemical change. So physical change or chemical change में what is the difference? The difference between the physical and the chemical change is that the physical change is temporary. It can be reversed. हम आइस को वाटर बना सकते हैं, दोबारा फ्रीजर में रख के उसको आइस बना सकते हैं. This is a reversible change. And only the state of matter is changing. There is no change in the composition or there is no formation of a new substance. Okay? So the example of ice we talked about. I have a candle with me. अगर इसको हम heat करते हैं तो wax melt हो जाता है. This is again a physical change. Only the change of temperature. Routinely, when you have, this is ghee. On the room temperature in winters, it is frozen. But when we heat it a little, it comes into a liquid form. These are physical changes. But what are chemical changes? अगर आप पेपर को टीयर करते हैं या श्रेड करते हैं तो उसके छोटे छोटे पीसेस हो गए, दैट इज फिजिकल चेंज. लेकिन अगर आप पेपर को बर्न कर देते हैं तो वो ऐश में बदल जाता है. दैट ऐश और दैट कन्वर्जन ऑफ बर्निंग प्रोसेस इज कॉल्ड एज अ केमिकल चेंज. उसको आप रिवर्स नहीं कर सकते. एंड अ न्यू मैटर which is called as ash that is formed. So chemical changes, they are permanent, they are irreversible, and a new substance is formed, which is, in case of burning of paper, is ash. Whereas physical change, we said, they are temporary, they are reversible, and only the state of matter changes. It does not give rise to a new substance. Okay? So these are the different things which we have learnt about solids, liquid or gases, or to say different states of matter. Right? I hope you have understood it. If there are any further confusions, if something is not clear, we'll take those things up in your Zoom session and then we can clarify those things. Till then, bye bye, take care, study well.